Now let's talk about the role of the brain in emotion. Of all the parts of the brain, the limbic system is probably the most important in discussion of emotion. This network of structures located beneath the cortex include the amygdala, the hippocampus, and the hypothalamus. The primary role of the hippocampus appears to be in processing memories. The amygdala, a small almond-shaped structure, receives sensory inputs and immediately evaluates the emotional meaning of stimuli, whereas the cortex evaluates the meaning of the inputs. Research has substantiated the importance of the amygdala to emotions. For example, animals whose amygdala is removed lack fear and rage responses. Joseph Lecters has found that the amygdala reacts instantly to sensory inputs and can trigger the fight or flight response while the cortex is evaluating inputs and making decisions. Joseph Lecters is a special person. He is a neuroscientist who makes music.
There are all kinds of ways that you can communicate with the public about science, and I've written books about science and given lectures and so forth, and those are very effective and very rewarding things to do. But there's something very immediate about playing music and singing, and if you can actually get the audience to appreciate the words of what we're singing about, I think it's an opportunity to provide an additional way of communicating information about the brain. The songs that I've been writing are primarily about how the brain works, and especially how it works in emotions like fear. I think it was probably in the Roman times that the amygdala was identified as an almond-shaped structure in the brain. Amygdala is Greek for almond. The amygdala is especially involved in fear and in detecting danger, responding to danger, but it probably has some role in other emotions as well. And one of our songs is called All in a Nut, and it's all about the role of the amygdala in fear. So it asks the question, why do we feel so afraid? And the answer is, it's all in a nut in your brain.
Why do we feel so afraid? Why do we feel so afraid? Don't have to look very far. Don't get stuck in a rut.
Lecters focused on fear because it occurs across cultures and in many species and plays a key role in some psychological disorders. Using rats as his experimental animals, Lecters played a tone and applied a brief electric shock to the rat's feet. When the tone was sounded again, the animals frozen and their blood pressure and heart rates increased. The rats seemed to have learned to fear the tone. Lecters used electrodes to trace nerve impulses that carried information about the sound from the ear to the thalamus. From the thalamus, the information sped to the cortex, where it was evaluated. Then the impulse went to the amygdala. The pathway from the thalamus to the sensory cortex to the amygdala involves several neural links that add time to the process. The signal about the tone follows a second route, from eye to thalamus to amygdala. But why would two routes, one cortical and one subcortical, carry the same information? The shorter route conserves time, which permits emotional responses to begin in the amygdala before we completely recognize what we are reacting to or what we are feeling.
The entire brain plays a role in emotion. Stroke patients with right hemisphere damage have trouble expressing emotion and perceiving emotional signals from others. These people may understand the statement "I'm angry" but fail to detect the speaker's tone of voice or angry facial expression.
I'm angry! angry, but your tone of voice and your facial expression means nothing to me.
Patients with right hemisphere disease or damage have more difficulty than patients with left hemisphere damage in processing facial expressions or emotionally charged speech. The right hemisphere appears to be specialized for perceiving emotion from facial expressions. When normal people report negative emotions, such as fear or disgust, there is increased activity in their right hemisphere. The left hemisphere is more active during positive emotions, such as happiness.
Although we think that all humans share and express emotions, some people have difficulty expressing their emotions and understanding the emotions of others. Gray, a successful 35-year-old surgeon, is articulate and reflective when discussing art and science. By contrast, he has difficulty speaking about his emotions and is unresponsive to the emotions exhibited by others. After he married Ellen, she was often angry with him, although he rarely understood why.
This drama is so funny.
That is alexithymia. This word is derived from Latin. A means without, lex means word, and thymia means feeling. The word refers to a deficiency characterized by have no words to describe feelings. In order to know alexithymia thoroughly, we interviewed a British who has this kind of experience.
Hello, sir. Can you introduce yourself first?
Hello, this is Paul Isaacs.
Now, can you tell us something about alexithymia based on your own experience?
Now, to explain what alexithymia is, as we know, autistic people find it very hard to judge the emotions of others, but alexithymia is an internal judgment of the individual's feelings. And I can give a good example, a personal example of this would be, for me, the way alexithymia affects me is that I can recognise when I'm extremely happy and recognise when I'm extremely sad. But anything within the middle of this, what I call the grey area, is totally and utterly unidentifiable. I cannot identify what those emotions are because they're vague, they're not concrete. Apparently this affects 85% of people who have Asperger's syndrome, which does make sense because compounded with the social emotional agnosia I've spoken about, it obviously creates this confusion with inner and outer emotions. It's really interesting. A good example I can give is when you wake up in the morning and you usually have some idea of how you feel, but I never ever do. I can only say when I'm at the extreme of an emotion. I can only say I'm happy when I'm very happy and I'm sad when I'm very sad, and that can cause confusion when people ask, how are you today? Well, that's an open-ended question in itself, and that can be very hard to answer.
Thank you for your sharing.
Now we can have these conclusions.
People with alexithymia lack self-awareness. They rarely cry, are described as colorless and bland, and are not able to discriminate among different emotions. They are often unaware of what others around them feel. They do not differ from others in the number or type of words used to describe their dreams. However, their dreams are rated as less fantastic.
People with alexithymia tend to be men who come from families that provide little positive communication and few models for expressing emotions.
Thank you for watching this video. Now, next part.